labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. I think many of us really understand what Jesus is saying when he's calling those who are burdened, because we all experience burdens in our lives. Just this past week, I visited 3 different people in the hospital for various reasons, some emotional reasons, some very physical or a new onset of some sort of disease. But all of us have some sort of experience of burdens. And so we know what it feels like to need Jesus to help us carry the load. But the part of that opening line, or that verse from our gospel that I want to focus on, is the word labor. Because when Jesus says that at his time, many people are doing very physical labor, very, taxing labor for the body. But we live in a world where that's not exactly the case anymore. Yes, some do, but many of us work at a desk, and so the physical labor isn't quite as stressful. And so I wonder, if Jesus was here today, right now, speaking this gospel, might he say it just a little differently? Might he use the word busy instead of labor? Come to me, all you who are busy and burdened, and I will give you rest. I've mentioned this lady before, Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom was a prisoner in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And eventually she became a powerful speaker about forgiveness. But what I want to quote her on today is how she speaks about busyness. And she says this: if Satan cannot make you sin, he will make you busy. If Satan can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. Which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. Because if Satan can't get you to turn away by doing bad things, he'll just make you so busy you can't even think about Jesus. So busy that we forget to pray. Busyness is a real threat to our spirituality. When you think about the priesthood, for example, one of the things that we know today is for all the priests who have left ministry, when we do these surveys, one of the things that comes up over and over and over again for priests who have left is, I became so busy, I stopped praying. Busyness led to this spiritual erosion in some of these priests, that they left ministry. How sad. One of the other things that's very interesting when it comes to married life, and this data is very clear, the most unhappy time for a marriage is when the children are teenagers. And it's not the children's fault, it's not the couple's fault, it's just the reality of our world. And the reason that's the case is because as children become teenagers, what happens? The family becomes more busy. And because the family becomes more busy, sometimes the couple themselves lose the time they need to be together and to really maintain that intimate connection that's necessary for a good marriage. And so that's the most dangerous time for couples, is as the busyness increases, does the quality of the relationship then decrease? Notice the busyness of family life can lead to an erosion of intimacy between couples. And I think all of us here, we share this, me and you, all of us. Sometimes I invite people to pray at adoration on a Tuesday or a Thursday. Oh, Father, I just don't know if I have time. I'm a little busy. Or think about just daily life, trying to find the habit of prayer every day, and how easy it's to say, I just don't have time for that today. And one thing I've talked about a few times, and I'm not trying to over talk about it, but the importance of being at Mass every Sunday, and how often we can skip Mass just because we're too busy. See, the reality is being busy is a great threat to our spiritual life. And so in order for us to really avoid this problem, in order for us to avoid this spiritual erosion, we have to know what the problem is, how it begins, how it comes into our lives. So what's the first reason why we become too busy? It's really quite simple. We say yes to too many things, right? We say yes to too many things. I remember when I was a freshman in high school, and at the time I was playing on the freshman soccer team. I played the trumpet, so I was in the marching band. And I was also in this math course that was a combination of freshman and sophomore math. And I only share that because it was a lot. It was a lot. And I remember Mondays and Fridays were the worst. Because Monday I would go to soccer practice right after school, and then I would have a quick dinner, and then I would go to band rehearsal from 6 to 9, and I wouldn't even get home and have any time to rest or do anything fun because I'd have to go straight to homework and do homework until midnight. And it just about wrecked me. I was actually thinking about being a valedictorian, and that went away that semester. Like, all right, that dream is over. But here's the other problem. That year, I had no interest in going to youth group. 0. I was so busy, I was unable to say yes to Jesus. How often are we so busy and we're unable to say yes to Christ and what he wants to do in our lives? So the first problem is we say yes to too many things. The second problem in our busyness is we go to the wrong thing for rest. When we finally have that moment to rest, we go to all the wrong things. I was talking to this young man, and this was not a confidential, this was a casual conversation, and he said, Father, last night I went to bed way too late. I'm like, dude, define too late. And he said, well, I was on TikTok, and I was scrolling through that until midnight, and then eventually I was texting my friend for about a half hour, and after texting with him, he said, you should really watch this Netflix show. And the first episode of the series was an hour. So he's like, all right. So he watched the show. So now it's 2 a.m. And then he gets done watching the show, and you know what he does? He goes right back to TikTok. I don't get TikTok. I don't understand. I don't need another thing. But he didn't fall asleep till after 3. And I was like, dude, you were in your room, in bed, the place where you're supposed to be sleeping and resting, and you did everything but. Hello? But we all do it. We do the wrong thing. We go to the wrong things in our busyness for rest. And what's the invitation from Jesus in our gospel? Come to me. Come to me, all you who are busy, who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. That's the invitation from Jesus this weekend, is to go to him. And so I think it's important for us to reflect in our lives, where is this busyness taking control, and how can we make space for Jesus? Maybe it's saying no to some things so that Jesus actually has an opportunity, and maybe it's a more definite, I'm going to rest with Christ today. I heard this recently. Busy is an acronym. It means something. Being under Satan's yoke. How about that? Busy, being under Satan's yoke. And isn't it something that Jesus says to us in our gospel, that when we come to him with our burdens and our busyness and our labors, and he offers us his yoke, the yoke of Christ. And the yoke of Christ is meant to give us peace, rest, and freedom. This weekend, may we trade in the yoke of busyness for the yoke of Christ.